All right, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Greg Duvall. I'm joined today by Aldo Kyriakos. My role here at Pros is running the B2B product management team. So Aldo's on my team, and many of our teammates have been working the booth and presenting this week. So thanks again for being here. Really appreciate it. It's day 3 of the event, so we're not done yet, and thank you for attending this session. What we're going to do today is we're going to give you a really short 2 or 3 slides of what's new in the B2B platform, and then we'll work our way into what we're working on right now in Q2, so active initiatives which translate to new features and capabilities in the platform that you'll see in our summer release, and then we'll also be weaving in some of the H2 features and capabilities in the platform. So our goal is to give you a flavor of what's new, what's coming, so what's next, and I think we've got the right content to do that. So we'll allow for questions at the end, so take some notes along the way. We'll leave a little bit of time for Q&A, and then Aldo and I can stay up here afterwards and field any questions one-on-one. Okay, so at this point in the conference, you should all be familiar with our platform. There's a few different pictures of this, but overall, what we're communicating here in the blue boxes are the capabilities which cross over and throughout the platform, really addressing both the pricing requirements as well as the selling requirements. Our go-to-market is, from a licensing perspective, is there's 2 ways to opt in to the platform, if you will. You can opt in from Smart Price Optimization and Management, which is also abbreviated to Smart POM throughout the presentation. And that includes most of the pricing capabilities and price optimization capabilities that you see at the bottom. Smart CPQ is really comprised of our catalog configuration, the quoting agreements, which are sales agreements. So that's either way is just fine with us, and many of our customers have both. Which is ideal because we have connected these capabilities in the platform so they work together. And there's a foundation which includes our identity and access management, our common data model, the science services data platform that we use, which are really backbone services that are shared across the platform. We also have something new that I'll touch on in a little later in the presentation around build with. So that's about platform extensibility and opening up our APIs, making it easy to find that documentation, easy to extend the platform via the APIs that we offer. So you've probably seen a few numbers this week. This is a little bit different characterization. So last quarter, the number of transactions processed, transactions per minute, as well as the trailing 12 months. The point here is that we have an enterprise-grade platform. The number of transactions is a bit overwhelming to look at the sheer numbers and volume. This is, I think it's over 2 times the transactions in the New York Stock Exchange last year, all of last year. So we're very proud of this, testament to the platform, its capabilities, and really when it comes to availability, reliability, response time. So if you haven't noticed yet, for the last couple of years, we've been doing seasonal platform releases. So we just came off our spring release. This was announced in April. These are 4 feature sets that we chose to highlight here today. This week, you've heard a lot about our Gen 4 AI, and we do have a little bit more of that tucked in here. So I'll save that for Aldo's bit. Rebate management has been a perennial theme. We've partnered with our friends and strategic partner from Enable. And so for the last 6 to 12 months, we've been working on different flavors of integration. We chose to start with data integration and integrating the Enable rebate management transactions into our price management offering. So that work was done last year. We just came off a second round of integration, so now we have a capability whereby the rebate programs that are defined in Enable can show up at the time of quote. So very powerful. We now have pricing and quoting integration with our partner Enable. On the subscription side, this has been something we've been working on. We launched last year. We've recently improved that. So there's really 3 dimensions here. One is subscription pricing, which allows you to take advantage of native constructs that are used for pricing subscription services. Those native constructs include things like rate plans and charge types to allow you and your pricing teams to more easily represent prices that don't match what you're probably traditionally used to when it comes to pricing methods and pricing regular non-subscription based products. So we have that pricing capability now baked into our smart price management offering. On the quoting side in Smart CPQ, we also have now the ability with the same workflow you're used to, you can now incorporate those subscription products. So when you browse the catalog, you can find subscription-based offerings and deal with them just like you're dealing with non-subscription-based offerings. So from a sales rep's perspective, there really should be no difference. It's the same workflow. What comes out of it, however, is different. We do splice out the recurring transaction lines, or I should say quote line items, and we tuck those into a subscription contract object, and that carries on. That has its own life cycle. So once that subscription contract is created, then downstream a year later, for example, a CSM can renew that subscription as a contract in its own. So a lot of exciting stuff we've done on the subscription side. I've got a couple more slides I'll hit in a minute on the Microsoft ecosystem. In our spring release that we just announced, we announced a non-CRM option via PowerApps that allow you to stand up quickly a quoting and agreement-based solution without having the full weight of a dynamic CRM. So that's good for those of you that are looking to step into, you're already most likely in a Microsoft ecosystem and you're looking to step into quoting and maybe agreements, but you're not quite ready for deploying more CRM licenses. All right, so the next segment of our talk, we're really going to hit 3 areas. We're going to cover Gen 4 AI, and Eldo's going to talk about some exciting things we're doing next. We're going to hit more on Omnichannel, which has got a few different flavors of things, and then we'll hit self-service before we get to the future roadmap. With that, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So we are obviously working on a lot more than these, but at this level, I think it makes sense for us to think about these 3 major items that motivate us. So first one, Gen 4 has been the poster across the conference, so this should not be new. So I'll cover in a very brief way everything we're doing around Gen 4. Why does it matter? Why are we going in this direction? One, to exploit all the data that you bring to us. We don't want to be in a situation where we're using segmentation and as a result of that, not able to maximize the use of the data that we already have. So that's a big reason why we're going in this direction. 2 is the extent of volatility. Even if you could use segmentation to get a great working solution, a week later, a month later, it's going to have to adapt. And the neural network is a lot better at adapting to volatility. And then lastly, all that would be great, but if we couldn't make it obvious to your sales users, to your pricing users, why it's making the recommendations it's making, it would be moot. So we've innovated really good ways to bring all of that sophistication, but in a very simple and transparent fashion. So these are the 3 things that motivate why we're going in the direction of Gen 4. So in H1, what we delivered is the insights from the running of the analytics or the science at a forest level. And maybe to take a step back, when we run any kind of science on your data or any kind of analytics, we try to always answer 2 questions. First is, if this science was in place in the last 6 months, how would the last 6 months of your business be different? Like, what would have it done for you? Right? That allows you to answer at the forest level, what is it going to be doing for your business? And then being able to slice and dice that by different business units or business regions and understand the impact of that on your business is a big goal for us. So that's one of the questions we're always trying to answer. What's the impact of it? Second thing we will always want to answer is, okay, great, when you have a specific recommendation, what is backing up that recommendation? So that's the second question we're trying to answer. So we delivered, paid down both of those questions in H1. We delivered the uplift analytics that Kavya showed yesterday, as well as the specifics around why a given recommendation is what it is, what are the various influencers, what are the different peers that are building up into that recommendation. So this is what we've, in a very quick run, delivered in H1. In second half, we're building further on the whole transparency theme. And Kavya covered some of this yesterday, which is really being able to self-serve the validation of the model. So when our teams, our customers implement, a lot of time is spent understanding the impact of that science. That first question I was mentioning earlier, right? So a lot of times the customers may want to interrogate that impact from different angles. And if we as product haven't productized all the right queries for it, then our PS team gets pulled in to create custom queries to answer those things. And we don't want that to happen, right? So we're looking at the patterns of what are the types of questions that people ask and trying to productize all of that up front. So without PS getting involved, without spending that time and money, we're able to answer those questions and get it live much faster. So that's a big goal in second half. The other goal in second half is, it's great, again, that we have all of these analytics, all of this science, but if it doesn't get out to the point of need, at the time of need, it's not meeting its function. So we want to be able to get those detailed analytics about a specific recommendation out to our CPQ users, right? So that you don't need to call anybody to kind of see why is this recommendation what it is. The salesperson should be able to self-serve that answer for themselves. So the two major areas we're focusing on in second half. Anything else you want to add?
No, that's perfect.
Okay. Then, so staying on the theme of science and Gen 4 is taking that science into a new place. So far we've talked about Gen 4 science, which is the neural network science, addressing the problem of price optimization. But there are other problems that the same science could be used for. And one of them is, especially in our cargo space, in any business where you have a constraining capacity. So it could be like your self-storage business, for example, or it could be a hotels business, a renting kind of situation.
Parking lots.
Parking lots, a great example, yeah. So when you have a capacity, and as that capacity fills up, the value of the remaining units goes up with it. So your opportunity cost of giving away that last seat on a plane or last unit of storage in a cargo space, that increases. So we can use the neural network to discern what that opportunity cost should be, and then apply the Gen 4 science, which is for price optimization, to customize the price to a customer who's coming to me in that last hour, right? So I'm not giving away my remaining capacity at a suboptimal price. So we're bringing that into the platform as well. It's going to be more towards a few targeted customers in the second half. It's not going to be true GA in that everyone can run with it. So that is a big area of focus for us in the second half. Okay. So that covers largely our science investments and investments around optimization for the second half. Next, let's look at enabling omnichannel. So, I think it's important for us to get on the same vocabulary when we say omnichannel. What does it really mean? And I'm going to try to take a stab at this, right? So we are all trying to sell a product or service. We're typically selling it through some channels, and so I've got 4 versions of these channels, because it could be direct, it could be my own e-commerce site, it could be partners, it could be resellers, distributors, and it could be their e-commerce sites. So these are just a very simplified version of what your channel landscape might look like. And on the other end, it's not just channels, but you have the modalities of how you're selling that product or service. You could be selling it as, okay, I want to make a quote and order it right away. That could be one modality. Another is, I actually want to build a long-term agreement for this particular product. It could be a subscription, or it could be that I'm buying something already that I have contracted. So maybe I started an agreement, and this particular sale is just, I want to just buy off of that agreement, right? So there's these different modalities. So when we think about omnichannel, it's really about the fluidity across this entire space. So I kind of made a little 3D thing here, where let's say a product is started off as a direct sale, it went to a quote to order, or it could go to a quote to agreement from there. And from a quote to agreement, let's say I already have an agreement, the next action could be that it's entirely happening on the e-commerce site, and et cetera. So you can imagine that this back and forth creates a very complex web of possibilities, right? And this is kind of what we think of as omnichannel, that we need strong capabilities in all of these areas and strong interactions across all these areas, and ideally AI on top of it, discerning what is the next best channel, next best modality that this particular engagement should go in. That's our ultimate vision. Okay? So I'm going to hand off to Greg to talk about how we're paying down pieces of that vision in the second half.
Thanks, Eldo. I hit on subscriptions a little bit, but I want to go a little bit deeper. So when it comes to subscriptions, we talked about the pricing side, how you ultimately price a subscription-based offering, how that then gets quoted back into the modalities that Eldo was talking about. So those get represented pretty well up here. The billing part we haven't talked about yet, but the artifacts in which we create based on how you're pricing and selling those subscriptions, you can designate within the platform the frequency, billing frequency, the subscription renewal, whether it's evergreen and renews automatically, whether it's a manual process to renew at the end of the subscription term. All those things get specified up here, and that's what we mean by pricing and packaging. So you get to designate that, and those are really important designations that then downstream, when these artifacts get handed off, take a subscription to a subscription billing service, pick your favorite, they know what to do, right? So it's baked in there already. Eventually, not this year, but eventually we'll get into some of the more advanced things off subscriptions, including the performance of subscriptions and the analytics. So things that maybe a CRO or RevOps wants to look at to understand the really the revenue, margin, profit impact of said subscriptions in the overall blend of your mix. So this year, we've already released the Dynamics 365 version of this. We're working on Salesforce. So in the second half of the year, we'll be announcing that, so stay tuned. Just show of hands, how many D365 CRM customers in the audience? Yeah, good portion. Salesforce? Okay.
Some overlap as well.
Yeah, no CRM, but wish you had a CRM? Okay, few?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, we've got something for you too. Okay, so that's subscriptions. Next is going to be Microsoft and how we play in the Microsoft ecosystem. So I talked about PowerApps, and now this new capability we released in Q1 as part of our spring release. So this is the ability for those of you that don't have a CRM, this is the recommended option. We can do something and have done this on Salesforce for many years. So what's new here is our ability to do this in Microsoft with a model-driven app on the Power Platform, which is PowerApps. This allows or enables a standalone solution that spans both quoting and agreements. And a benefit is that we've tied into the Dataverse objects, which means that if you do get to a point in the future where you run out of runway and you want the full feature functionality from the CRM, D365 in this case, those objects that house the data, so the accounts, the opportunities, the quotes and agreements that get created and powered by pros, all that will still be there. You don't have to lift and shift or port anything. The data will be already in the standard Microsoft Dataverse objects, which makes it much easier to extend your runway. What's new, and I haven't mentioned yet, is the Power Pages capability. So this allows, and really the use case here is a customer or company that's using D365. You may have 1,000 named users or 1,000 sales reps using that functionality to create quotes. Let's say you have a partner community, and that partner community has 4 times as many sales reps, so that would be 4,000 reps. In most cases, you won't want to set up and license an additional 4,000 users for D365. So this becomes a really economical way to do that. You can leverage the Power Platform, and you can stand up a partner portal very quickly in Microsoft. And then you can tie in to the same quoting engine that you already are using to power your D365 direct sales rep channel. So it's opening up a new channel, but leveraging the same core quoting system, if you will, along with that data. So it becomes a really nice way and quick way to take what you have in your investment and parlay that into a partner portal or some other channel where you're dealing with a multiple of users.
Correct.
Oh, pricing execution. I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, and so as we think about, again, these channels and modalities, it's very easy if you don't have a single source of truth to start coming from different sources of truth and giving disconnected answers. And so the last thing you want when you move through an omni-channel motion is to have the redoing of something that you already did on some other channel. The second thing you don't want to happen is that one channel is saying something that the other channel doesn't agree with, right? So in order for those issues to not occur, we're unifying all the ways in which pricing is delivered into all of these contexts. And also we're doing that with our real-time pricing engine. So what you saw about the statistics in the beginning with the trillions of transactions we're pricing, that same engine is what's going to be unifying the context across these modalities. So we're continuing to invest in the unified pricing engine, which really brings a unified syntax across the real-time as well as the just-in-case pricing models that we used to have in the past. So this is an investment that continues to pay down that omni-channel vision.
And from an extensibility perspective, when we're talking APIs, this is the API. This is how you access your prices and can drive multiple applications from that. So that's the way in, if you will.
Great. In advance. So we're now at that third area of vision that we're focusing on. We talked about the AI. We talked about the omni-channel. The last area we're going to talk about here is the empowering of the champions within the business to self-serve and focusing also on that user experience to make all that self-serve very easy. This is a pretty big shift, I think, in the industry. When we think about how we use software in our personal lives, we're obviously self-serving, right? Nobody's building anything for us. Nothing's being served up to us on a silver platter by a PS team. But in the enterprise world, there's still a lot of PS and implementation energy needed. And that energy is very valuable. We want to make sure that those high-dollar, high-expertise people are solving the right problems and not redoing kind of mundane stuff. And the key to that is ensuring that we design our user interfaces, our data interfaces in the most seamless fashion. So we have a big investment towards that in the second half. So, so the first piece of this is we started off with platform analytics, which is we wanted to make it super transparent for our customers about how the platform is being used for them. So that starts off with just looking at system analytics. So the amount of data, the amount of calls, like again, back to that 2 trillion calls. Well, how many of those 2 trillion calls are you guys making, right? And there's some governor limits and so on. So you want to make sure you're matching to those governor limits. There's number of named users in the CPQ space, for example, and it just gives you a sense of how you are using the platform. So there's a few angles around that. There's a system usage angle. There's a data quality angle where when you bring in data, typically that happens every night or every week, Is the quality of that data staying consistent? Is hierarchies being maintained when you bring that in? And if there are errors there, we want to let you know right away so that those gets addressed. So again, it becomes kind of a dashboard and a single pane of glass for that. There's a third piece here that we don't have a screenshot here for, which is the user activity. So what are people doing on your platform? Who's making changes to various prices, price method formulas? We want to bring that to be very transparent so that if something does go wrong or somebody fat-fingered something and the price was off, you can at least now trace back where that came from or which action that resulted in that. So that's an investment that we're paying in that direction. And we're going to continue to improve the space. The ultimate vision for this is not just system usage, not just data quality, but ultimately the value that you're able to bring to your business in dollar terms, right? Today we have the PS team has the customer adoption practice, which focuses on improving your adoption, focuses on improving your value, but they do a lot of that analytics on a pros environment. And we then have to show it to you. We want to get to a point where all those analytics are out of the box and you don't need anybody from pros to show it to you. You can see it right there. That's the ultimate vision for this space.
That's the goal.
Okay.
All right, so switching gears, still in the realm of self-service, but a different flavor is extensibility. And I'm talking about platform extensibility here. So buildwith.pros.com is our microsite. It's publicly available. Our API documentation is out there. Not all of it yet, but that's what we're working on. But this has been huge for us and our partners. We have some customers that have leveraged this, but typically it's a partner or developer type that wants to build off of the APIs. One of those APIs that's published out here is the real-time pricing engine. So being able to call in and retrieve prices with or without guidance. So you can take a look out here. I encourage everyone to at least peruse Build With, and if you're so inclined, build an application. That's our ultimate goal. As you'll see in the second half, we're going to publish some sample reference apps out there that are essentially open source that will allow you to accelerate your experiments and hopefully turn into some really cool and productive applications. So the sky's the limit here. And I do encourage you all. Do we have any partners in the audience? Okay, cool. And development capabilities in the, yes, okay, cool. The platform experience. So this is a big deal, right? We've now improved what we call our homepage. There is a homepage that's consolidated with the capabilities. So depending on what you've licensed and what your entitlements are, you'll see a different view of this. But this is a nice step forward for us and hopefully for you guys too. This is where we've now housed the platform analytics that Eldo was showing. So that's based off of that. We're also building out the administration capability, which is not in here yet because it's under development. And we'll be introducing a lot of self-service admin capabilities within this. So this is a means to better navigate and facilitate that navigation throughout the platform, but you'll also see us introducing new feature functionality in here. And bringing it all together. So where do we go next? Before we do this, okay, so we're 11:45, 30 minutes in. All right, so the platform roadmap, and I want to thank our customer Fonterra. I'm not sure if they're in the audience, but we've borrowed a template and taken it and run with. We've been running with this. This is something I showed earlier this week at our customer advisory board on Monday. On the y-axis, we have the core, think of it as capabilities, price management, configure, price, quote, and price optimization. On the bottom, we have our platform services, which are shared services, self-service combined with user experience, analytics and insights, and then extensibility in the ecosystem. So what I've done here is really laid out everything up to this line we already do and have released. What we're working on in Q2 when it comes to price management is we've got a little bit of a typo there, but in the pricing area, We're working on a new feature around SAP per quantity support. This has come from many of our existing customers that are using SAP, and it has to do with the conversion of really the unit of measure from SAP. So this will really make it easier, for the most part, to translate those units of measure. Unified pricing engine is what Eldo was talking about, is that common syntax that we use and leverage across the platform, which translates into time to value savings. It makes it easier for you all to expand over time if there is a common syntax. On CPQ, again, we've been on this path for multiple years now with performance quoting, supporting tens of thousands of line items, very large quotes. We've enhanced our agreements offering, subscriptions, rebates, and we'll continue on that trajectory. So we're doing a little bit more work with Enable this quarter to pull in more rebate management details to show at the time of quote. So taking what we did in Q1 and making it better. We'll also do, hopefully some of you got to tune in to Sunil John's presentation this week on CPQ collaboration. And think of this as a way to take a quote and share that quote or publish that quote out to your end user, your end customer that is. And that end customer can then collaborate with your sales rep in a very easy fashion, not having to have credentials to log into anything. It's all via email, smartphone, and they can collaborate back and forth on a quote that's created in our platform. Price optimization, again, great lineage. We've talked at this conference about Gen 3, moving to Gen 4. One thing we haven't mentioned much, but we do have a really interesting capability called Extensible AI. This was formerly known as Bring Your Own Science, but Extensible AI is a synonym for that. Extensible AI allows our customers that do have data science teams and investments to bring those science models in and be housed in our platform. And it brings to bear all those abilities I talked about, the availability, reliability, that scale stuff, and security, and gives you the ability then to really fan out across multiple channels that science. So it's a way to put science into play and have it then be used by CPQ, e-commerce, etc. So we have some really interesting customer use cases here. I think both is one R, one's Python. They may both be Python models. But if you're interested in those details, please come talk to us, because we can share how that works, a little bit more how that works and how you can access that. All right, so core platform services, again, I skipped what we're working on. This is what Eldo mentioned a bit ago, is the capacity-aware optimization. So that's a huge deal. When it comes to our core platform services, we're working right now. I'm going to pair that up with self-service because these two go together. So we've been on this trajectory where now we're at a point where we're addressing self-service data management. And this means providing a consistent front door for loading data based on a common data model that allows you, whether you're using CPQ, price optimization, price management, get the related data sets that go with those capabilities in one way, and then we take care of the pub and sub publications subscription off of that in our platform, okay? So you'll see us in the second half of the year. We're moving into a preview soon, but in the second half of the year, we're going to be releasing that. That will show up in the administration area under Pros Home. And you'll also see some new data connectors that are native data connectors that go with this that allow you to easily pull in data from existing systems and data sources. Modularized licensing, I want to say one small thing about that, but you will see over time us providing more bite-sized capabilities that you can subscribe to instead of having to shift from an edition to the next edition, which can be sometimes a pretty big shift. So think about new science, this capacity aware. This is a great example of how we intend to have modularized licensing. So if you just want to turn on that science, you can opt into it and pay for just that. versus moving to a full edition with a bunch of capabilities you may not be ready for yet. And we'll be doing that across other places in the platform. Our ultimate goal is to have these things be trialable in the platform. So you could turn them on for a while, experiment, hopefully get some value, and then make that decision of, are you ready for it? Are you ready to license it? Analytics and insights. This is where platform analytics comes in, and Eldo did a good job of talking about some of the different dimensions: user action auditing, usage metrics, which are system metrics in our platform. We're currently working on getting CPQ focused metrics into that view. As you may have noticed, we're using embedded Power BI. It doesn't mean you need a license for Power BI. It means as a development team, we're using Power BI to visualize these numbers and metrics in the platform. And then extensibility and ecosystem. We've invested a lot in the Microsoft extensions we talked about, PowerApps, Power Platform, or Power Pages, that is. Not yet ready to be announced, but we have, as some of you may know, the configurator we use in CPQ is a market-leading configurator. And so we are working with some other software companies right now, and hopefully next time we speak, we can talk about one of those being embedded in an e-commerce commercial offering. SAP HANA, we've been working on that for the last 6 months or so. We will have that certified by the end of the year. That's dependent on SAP's timeline as well, but we have the right assets and we have it working. And then I mentioned the open source build with apps. So there's a lot of work, really hone in on what we're doing right now. I picked some of your favorites to talk about here, just given the audience. But we have 50 initiatives in flight, which really are 50 feature teams right now in Q2. So that's a lot, right? But it's a testament to the continued innovation in the platform. And as you can see just from the spectrum here, and that's one reason I like this template so much, is it gives you a view of the different dimensions that we're addressing. So there's work being done in every one of these slices, and it all comes together to make it a better platform, more valuable platform, and hopefully easier to use. Good. This view, sorry about the formatting change, but these are ideas. I don't want to go into these just yet, but there's a lot of potential as we look out into the future. Don't hold us to these yet, because these will change based on your priorities and what we hear from you, as well as what we see happening in the market. So those are some ideas to carry on the continuum. And feel free to talk to any of us over here in the booth about where we're going here. But there's a lot of fantastic ideas, and thank you for sharing your requirements and talking to us about what you need for your businesses to make this more valuable. It helps us build a better product.
Good deal.
Anything you want to add?
No, it's perfect.
Awesome. So with that, Nadine, we'll take some questions now.